All right, hello, Honors 410 students. When last I saw you, I didn't think we were going to be moving on to online instruction, but the world changed pretty quickly, so here we are. So for now, I'm kind of operating under the assumption that we are going to be online for the remainder of the semester. If we are able to, both by policy and kind of best practice from a public health perspective, resume in-person instruction, ideally that's what I'd like to do. Depending on if or when we get that go-ahead, we'll kind of adjust accordingly. That's it. I have had a couple of students reach out regarding kind of concerns because they were living on campus and aren't going to be able to reasonably move back onto campus, or if we resume in-person instruction, be able to reliably have transportation to campus on a consistent basis. Rest assured, I am prepared to work with people on an individual basis if any of that happens. So for now, I say just try to relax as much as we can under the circumstances, and know that we're going to make this manageable for everyone to the greatest extent possible. And so if we do return to in-person instruction, it's my hope everyone will be able to join us. But if you're not able to do that, I will work with you individually. And rest assured, you'll still have every opportunity to succeed in the class. So with all of that said, the other quick tidbit I'll get into before I dive into the meat of what I want to say in this video is I know for group-led discussions that's a little bit of a point of concern as well. There are still 2 groups scheduled to go. I will reach out to those groups in the near future to discuss kind of modified expectations for group-led discussions. To give a general sense, I'm going to invite groups to record videos that will stand in place of giving an in-person presentation. I'm not going to expect those groups to lead a formal activity the way we would have during class time. Although if they do have ideas outside the box where we can do that virtually, I'm open to those ideas. We'll kind of experiment here and see what we can pull off, but I'm more expecting them just to kind of give a brief talk about the reading and some concepts from it, and introduce kind of discussion questions the way we ordinarily would have that we'll handle in an online written discussion as opposed to being able to speak with each other. So that's a pretty good segue to my plans for the bulk of the rest of this semester. So I'm planning to record video mini lectures for each of the classes that we were originally going to have, or at least most of them. So please keep up on the readings. Please keep up on your reading response journals. We will continue pretty much on the pace that we had planned to, the way it's laid out in the syllabus. So keep reading your Colson Whitehead there. There'll be some additional readings later on in the semester. But keep up on your reading response journals as well. One of the more convenient pieces about this transition is those aspects of the class shouldn't really need to change, right? So you can still do the reading you would have done ordinarily. You can still submit reading response journals on Canvas, and none of that really has to change in any meaningful way. But I'll post these video mini lectures. I'm going to try to contain them to, on the long end, 15 minutes. I'm going to aim for closer to 10 minutes out of respect for people who might have limited data to stream a video on, but also just because I know it's hard to just listen to someone lecture for much longer than that. As I hope my teaching in person had demonstrated, that's not really my style. I don't really enjoy giving those lectures, and I imagine you probably don't enjoy receiving long lectures you just have to listen to. So I'm just going to kind of raise major points that I think are really important for us to talk about, and more importantly, raise some questions. And then I'm going to ask everyone to respond to each video with at least one comment in the discussion thread. I want it to be a substantive comment, not just kind of a yes or no answer to a question, but more give us at least a sentence or two of your thoughts. And that will stand in place of what ordinarily would have been me evaluating your attendance for the class. So in some ways that's asking, I think not that much of folks. I think in some ways it's a lot lesser responsibility than having to be there in person. On the other hand, I'm hopeful it might invite some folks who haven't been able to participate in the discussion as much, a more comfortable space to be able to add their thoughts to the discussion just by writing them in, as opposed to having to raise your hand and raise those opinions orally in front of the whole class. When you post those comments, you can respond directly to something I've brought up in the video or that I've commented on in written fashion on the discussion thread, or especially if you're responding a little bit later, you can respond to each other. I'm anticipating my general plan is going to be to ask you to respond to videos within 1 week of them being posted to accommodate for people having different schedules during this kind of strange time, and perhaps not having totally regular access to the internet. And so I'm going to ask you to respond within a week week with at least one comment. As always, feel free to comment more than once, though, right? So similar to an in-person discussion, some people don't say a lot, but learn a lot from the listening. Some people like to say a lot more. You are welcome and free to respond 10 times if you want to. If you want to respond to everybody who's commenting, that's great. I think that's a more lively discussion. If you only want to respond once or twice, rest assured you're meeting your obligation in terms of what I'm expecting of you for the class. So we'll see how that goes. I expect there might be a degree of trial and error to this process. If it seems like that's not working out for folks, or if I'm missing something big, we'll adjust accordingly to that. But in that vein, I'm going to ask everyone to please respond to this thread, this video, and my written comments with a short comment. In this case, it can be a really short comment, basically just confirming that you were able to access the video, that you understand what's being said. This is mostly just our very first trial to make sure this, at least on a baseline, is working for folks. Also, this is an invitation that if this is not working for you, if you're having trouble accessing this video, or if you know that with your access to technology, this is going to be really problematic for you, I welcome you to let me know, and I'm definitely prepared to work with people on an individual basis, or if I hear a lot of people bringing up the same concerns, adjusting more wholesale to work for folks. So again, we'll kind of adjust on the fly with this, and similarly, I'll be patient with you and understand some trial and error there as well. So if you seem to misunderstand my expectations or just miss something entirely, I'll plan to reach out to folks. And as long as I see a good faith effort to catch up and keep up with the class, you'll be fine in that regard. The other piece that I wanted to address is workshop submissions. That's the other big piece of this class that I anticipate is going to be affected. While it's my hope that this all might be resolved much sooner than people seem to anticipate at this point, and we can kind of carry on with that part of the class in person, realistically, I think there's a fair chance that we're just going to be online. We're going to have to change up plans for that a good bit. I plan next week to follow up with you on what I plan for that. It's going to be tricky. I think we can still do what we would have done for a workshop discussion of people's pieces in this digital format and with comment threads. It's just a little different and a little bit messier. And so I'll follow up with you about expectations with that next week, if not sooner. Okay, so with all that though, so expect my next update to come on or around Monday of next week, when we would have ordinarily returned to ordinary class schedule. I may be in touch sooner if something big changes, either because I had a huge oversight that somebody draws my attention to, or because there's bigger changes in the world that demand bigger changes in our class. But if everything is more or less status quo between now and then, expect again Monday, maybe a little sooner, maybe a tiny bit later in the day, I will follow up with you with next steps. All right. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and I'll be in touch soon.